transported man.
Hello, so there have been a number of symbolic and deep interpretations of Nolan's film The Prestige coming out recently, and in all honesty, they frustrate me. While these breakdowns do present some interesting and relevant ideas, in my personal view of the film, they fall short. And they fall short in one key area. The fact that they claim that Borden's character, his ultimate trick, is nothing more than a brother or a double all along. While I know the majority listening to this right now will automatically scoff at me saying this, please watch this entire video and hear me out, and then form an opinion. Just as complex and twisted as HBO's Westworld is from Nolan's brother, this film is equally as complex and cannot be understood simply on the surface level.
My brother. A twin.
Your trick. You never learn my trick.
The Prestige is actually probably one of my favorite films of all time. I have watched it countless times. I would even fall asleep to it as a teenager, waking up to the sound of the DVD menu. I've contemplated it and studied it on levels most likely unparalleled by most.
The part we call The Prestige.
In the final reveal of the twist within the twist at the end of the film, Angier's character does state in confusion a brother, a twin, when attempting to logically make sense of what is occurring to him, but Bale's character doesn't ever actually confirm that in fact it was merely just a brother or a double. He simply smirks.
A cipher. An enigma.
This being the scene which everyone who subscribes to the brother theory would refer to. And really, are we supposed to believe the Tesla connection to Angier was merely serendipitous? The entire method of Borden left for Angier, Tesla was somehow just serendipitously a perfect match for the path Angier went down? To me, this simply just doesn't make any sense at all. In my view, Borden used Tesla's machine once only and simply did not initially kill the clone or himself after its use. So in order to back all of this up, let's reverse engineer the film.
It'll still take months to translate his writing.
One of the primary things to notice when watching the film the second time around is pay attention to the difference in personality and character traits displayed by the two Bordens. One is empathetic, more human you could say, and one is more soulless, a sociopath not caring when women die at his hands, the wife of Angier, killed with a swollen knot, and the wife of the good side of Borden, Sarah, maybe not directly, but an emotional trauma. Notice when Olivia is breaking it off with Borden towards the end of the film, she describes the actions of the soulless Borden as inhuman.
It's inhuman to be so cold.
In my mind, it would make sense that a clone copy of a man, not born of natural order or human birth, may be a cold and soulless entity, one of the key clues to decipher Borden's actual secret, and this soullessness is also shown in Angier. During his initial use of Tesla's machine, he does decide to kill the clone copy of himself, but when it comes time for the show, he kills his original self over and over by drowning in a tank of water under the stage. Obviously, because the death of his wife is so unbearable for him, and he wants to experience what she went through out of a sort of guilt, because he should have done something to prevent the incorrect knot tying. And after he kills his first self, which contained an organic, natural soul, he becomes fully sociopathic. I mean, I know he was bad before all that, but towards the end, he goes full dark side of Borden, like to where he literally doesn't even care about human life at all.
No, not anymore. And I win.
Angier wanted to rival and overshadow Borden's transported man so badly in revenge of his wife that he was willing to pay any cost that was needed. You'll notice when working with the double on the knockoff transported man, the drunk actor states that he has played Caesar and Faust. This coming from his drunk double foreshadows the coming actions of Angier.
I played Faust.
Selling his soul to a form of high science, science so advanced that it violates natural law, in a way defies death itself. So essentially, Angier, through anger, sells his soul to the devil via Tesla in a Faustian deal. This is also symbolically shown by the classic devilish archetype or look taken on by the soulless Angier as well as the dark side of Borden toward the later part of the film.
You bloody fool.
Each scene of this film symbolically and allegorically builds upon the
Are
next.
you watching closely?
How each specific scene connects into the other within Nolan's ordering of the film, the truth will be unveiled. Are you watching closely? When Borden first meets Sarah with her highly perceptive little nephew, aware that the birds are being killed for the trick on stage, again paralleling Angier's final method for the real transported man.
But where's his brother?
The nephew stating this line is referenced by many advocates of the brother theory, but if you think about it, the birds being crushed under the table does not parallel Borden's transported man, regardless of the nature of Fallon. Half of Borden doesn't die in each trick. It is Angier's transported man under the stage which parallels this scene. It is a conflation of the two men's tricks, so in a way Nolan wrote this line in as a sort of red herring, having people think it gives confirmation to the twin brothers, but in reality, it doesn't. He talks with Sarah on her way home, but she doesn't invite him in for tea, and he jokes and points at the lock, asking if this will be enough to keep him out. On the second viewing of the film, because you have to watch it twice to even begin to understand this film, clearly the second Borden or Fallon was waiting in her apartment for the trick all along. Then immediately following this scene, we are first introduced to Tesla's machine. Is this how he just did this trick for Sarah? How did you do that? And then Tesla's machine is shown to the audience right after that.
The secret impresses no one.
Does Christian Bale hold on to his own personal secret, Tesla above all other things, and hide it in plain sight for Angier?
The trick you use it for is everything.
Is how Borden played out his own personal trick different than how Angier played out his trick? They both had the same secret, really, Tesla, but Borden uses it differently.
Flatter you for the secret, but as soon as you give it up, you'll be nothing to him.
That's when
You'll be nothing to him.
This was built by a wizard, a man who can actually do what magicians pretend to do.
Or is it a serendipitous wild goose chase that magically worked out perfectly for Angier, and Christian Bale's character just never talked to Tesla ever before, but he just gave Angier Tesla as his keyword and just magically perfectly worked out in a serendipitous wild goose chase? That makes perfect sense, doesn't it? In the scene, Sarah comes upon Soulless Borden practicing the bullet catch. You know it's Soulless Borden because of his awkward fake happiness around her pregnancy, and Sarah stating that today is a day that you don't actually love me. Sarah gets irritated that he won't disclose the trick, so he agrees and shows the bullet is just hidden in the stick to pack down the charge. She fires the gun at the Soulless Borden, and obviously he's fine. And how did Angier initially kill his first clone when using Tesla's machine?
No, wait, I'm not...
A bullet to the chest, exactly paralleling this. You see how this can be taken as an allegorical clue? That Borden didn't choose to kill his clone, unlike Angier?
You know, it's actually very obvious.
And then just after this scene, we see these two men meet, and Angier takes his bullet catch revenge and shoots Borden's fingers off. People ask, why wouldn't Borden's clone be missing fingers too if he used the machine? Because this took place after he initially used the Tesla machine. The use of this hand configuration as a symbol is used throughout the film by both Borden and Angier at key times, which I'll be pointing out when I notice it.
How can he not know?
Because he was a soulless sociopathic clone that tied the incorrect knot. And he's covering his tracks by intentionally giving you his diary, writing that into it, and covering his tracks of Tesla by hiding it in plain sight. He's giving you the exact answer, but then you misinterpret it by your false conclusions at the end of the film. Hidden in plain sight.
I don't think we've had the pleasure.
Mr. Fallon's mind, you know. Very enterprising soul is Mr. Fallon. Enterprising soul is Mr. Fallon.
Is he a surprising soul because he was born out of Tesla's machine as a clone? In this scene when Angier is working on a comeback with Cutter, again the metaphor of the birds is used to parallel the difference in methods used by the two rivals. Angier is shocked and pleased that in this cage trick, the bird is completely fine. But when performing this on stage, the fingerless Borden, hand used as a symbol, ruins the trick and kills the bird and breaks this poor lady's hands. Symbolically showing how Borden set Angier down the path to do the very same thing to himself. Immediately following this, Cutter mentions the tech exposition with the engineers and scientists this week. And this exposition is another vital scene in truly understanding Borden's potential relationship with Tesla. At the expo, Tesla's coil seems to be very erratic and dangerous. Everyone is concerned by it, Angier even. The only person unfazed by it, sitting literally right under it, is Borden, almost as if he is familiar with Tesla and his work, as well as symbolically hinting at that indeed he did use Tesla technology at one point. Look at the aesthetics of this scene right here. Borden sitting at one coil, and Tesla's body right behind the other coil, hinting at the transported man of Borden. I speculate that Borden knew that Angier would see him at the expo and was fully aware of him following him out. And when he follows him out, Sarah states that he loves her today. It's true, meaning that this would have been the original Borden, the one to first interact with Tesla himself and use the machine, thus confidently sitting right under the Tesla coil, not even blinking. Notice Angier using the same hand symbol as Borden.
Tesla built one for another magician.
At this point, our processes does not deny it.
Well, why would you want the same thing?
And right here, he confirms that he has built supernatural-like machines before, or hints at it.
Mr. Tesla has built unusual machines for unusual people, but he would never talk about it.
Meaning we can't always trust the words of Tesla and his assistant at face value, given what he states right here.
I just want the machine.
Really, his expression and mannerisms, in my mind, says it all, just like the symbolism used from scene to scene.
Who's gonna believe you? Exactly.
Did Borden set Angier down a path by revealing his actual secret, because he knew that Angier would utilize that method or secret Tesla differently than he had? Why wasn't the keyword Edison or some other scientist at the expo? Borden would have had to have some communication with Tesla beforehand in order to construct this perfectly serendipitous wild goose chase that everybody seems to accept automatically on face value. I speculate that some of the trouble and waiting that Tesla and his assistant put Angier through was merely a set of tests to see if he was really willing to pay the Faustian existential costs of the device, selling his soul to accomplish his trick. When Tesla and him agree on the machine, Tesla says he had already started to build it, hinting that possibly he has actually in fact previously built this machine or something very similar to it before.
I've already begun to build it, Mr. Angier. You would be presenting it merely as illusion?
That's when.
In this scene, when Olivia, Cutter, and Angier are discussing what the hell is going on with Borden's transported man, they expressly state that in fact he is the same man. Not a twin, not a brother, which would be a double, but in fact the same man.
It comes out of that second cabinet, I promise you.
It's the same man.
This is the truth.
After Angier receives the diary from Olivia, we next see, for the very first time in Borden's performance of the transported man, it's a little spiced up, made to look like a toned down version of Tesla's technology, maybe hinting at his actual use and awareness of it. This scene is probably one of the strongest allegorical displays to support my theory, and the key difference between Borden and Angier. Angier steals quiet puffy boy Fallon the other side of Borden, buries him, which is symbolic of death. Remember, Angier kills his own clone. This gets Borden to reveal the key to decipher Tesla. What Borden has to do here shows symbolically the key to all of this. He digs up his own clone self. He preserves his clone, representing his dark shadow self, the opposite of what Angier does, killing his own clone. The same basic allegory repeated scene after scene amongst the two men.
Secret's in your notebook. The key word is the method.
And given that Angier's character forces the keyword Tesla out of Bale's character, why would Borden's keyword and method be Tesla if he wasn't even 100% planning on feeding it to Angier? Like, he forced it out of him given this little stunt. So if they're merely brothers, why in the hell would the keyword be Tesla?
Shows the audience you aren't using a double.
Olivia proves her love for me to you.
Okay, when Angier finally goes to Tesla demanding the completed machine and that he scammed him, I personally find it hard to believe that dozens of hats would have gone unnoticed on the property. I think Tesla and his assistant and Borden were both knowingly stringing Angier along in different ways, seeing if he would go all the way, knowing that he would be given the technology in the end if he took it to that level.
You considered the cost.
I'm not sure I follow.
So what is the big spiritual allegory behind all of this? You'll notice that in jail, Borden is kept in cell D23. So 4ABCD23. 2 divided by 3, of course, 666. Christian Ball's character, Cough Cough, by not choosing to kill his clone or soulless dark self, has integrated his own duality. Together they are a balance of light and dark, sociopathy and empathy. While on the other hand, Angier is constantly trying to fight against his dark self or shadow, or the pain of the loss of his wife, which then takes the form of killing his clone, thus himself, and being overtaken by his own shadow. Angier, through his anger, is ultimately consumed by his own self. This integration of duality, both sides of the self, is revealed in how both sides of Borden played Fallon and himself. Fallon, fall on, the fall of man, the dark side, the shadow self, right?
Are you watching closely?
Again, one last time, Borden never actually confirms Angier's confused speculation that they were both brothers or different men or merely a mixed match of doubles. The secret to the diary is Tesla. The secret to the film is Tesla, meaning in fact Borden did use his machine once. And not even to the viewers is he openly revealing his secret.
Disguise it. Give them enough reason to doubt it.
Be presenting it merely as illusion?
You'll be nothing to him.
This is the very thing that Nolan is doing to the audience with this intentionally ambiguous ending. He's giving you reason to doubt the involvement of Tesla with Borden. But as I've done here with my breakdown symbolically of all these scenes and contemplating why the key word would be Tesla, I really think the brother theory is an illusion being cast over the audience within the plot line of the film, to have most of the audience believe that they have the film figured out, but really, since they're not viewing each scene closely, are you watching closely, they're not actually getting the underlying key to the film.
Now you're looking for the secret, but you won't find it because, of course, you're not really looking. You don't really want to work it out.
I'm sure like 65% of the people watching this right now are people who thumbed up the Wisecrack video on The Prestige, but that's exactly why I'm making this.
You want to be fooled.
So believe it or not, that was actually a cut down version of my support of the clone and not brother theory. I didn't want to get too repetitive with it all. But anyways, just as a little fun, odd fact relating to Tesla, Trump's uncle, Donald Trump, John G. Trump, was the head of the FBI going through Tesla's papers and life work in his hotel room after he passed away. So who knows what they learned from all that? It's something interesting to look into. Anyways, please like, share, subscribe, comment below. Thank you very much, and bye. Bye.
The world, ladies and gentlemen, is on the brink of new and terrifying possibilities.